oh dear listener, I can't help but to talk. It's still Tuesday, the 14th of April, 2026. It is now 11:18, which is kind of cool. As cool as time can get. And, you know, I was thinking that I shouldn't even have to make this disclaimer, but, you know, I guess I can't really deny that I'm also a social creature. And so, you know, I crafted like a caveat to say that, you know, I think these clips are going to be some of the stranger ones. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm not even a good judge of that at this point. I just think that the combination of a really long day with the knowledge that, like, this is it, and that, like, I don't know. It just, different timbre to the day. It just feels different, you know. It's a different kind of day. But it also has very unique factors associated with it, like the very little sleep that I got, the very long day that I will have, and sort of also, I don't know, like 34 miles is, I do believe that's the longest day I've had, period, while being out here. So, you know, going out with a bang, not with a whimper. Not that 34 miles is like particularly crazy. Not that it's not though either. You know, these people who do like ultra marathons or what's the other thing that people will do? Oh yeah, like FKT records, like fastest known times, you know. So like, you know, do the Appalachian Trail in 46 days or something. I'm just like, dude, what? That sounds crazy. Like, again, nothing like a little perspective to put your effort into a different kind of context, you know? So, yeah, I think it'll be a very interesting day. It already has been. I was shocked. I really didn't expect that it would be 11 miles for me to get from Toccoa all the way back to 985. So, you know, I'm nearly, well, I don't know. What time did I start? Like 8 o'clock, I guess, maybe. 7:50, something like that. So 8, 9, 10. I don't know. Close to 3 hours in. Seems about right. And all of that was just getting out of that Toccoa area, which is crazy. Notebook LM said that Toccoa basically exists like in a bowl with the surrounding, relative to the surrounding mountains. So, yeah, it was just, it pretty much was uphill the entire time, getting like a, you know, 11 miles of uphill basically. So that might have been, you know, the bulk of the elevation for today. I think I probably already mentioned that, but now that I'm actually done with it, I certainly feel the difference. Like, it's much easier walking now. And, you know, the hills are rolling, if anything at all, but I'm on the shoulder, and it's rather nice because the sun, albeit close to noon, the angle is such, because I'm going north, that the sun, I've got a nice shady patch that I'm walking through, you know. The shoulder, it's like a soft shoulder, not necessarily my preference, but I suppose in terms of my joints and everything, it's good that it's softer rather than not. But, you know, like, if I can maintain these conditions for another 5 or 6 hours, it'll be a much easier feeling day than I might have feared, you know. My primary concern was just repeating the general vibe of the day when I decided to stop doing the Appalachian Trail, you know. That was like no fun for like a lot of hours, like probably at least 4 hours, I would say. Not to mention the fact that I thought the day was going to be shorter than it ended up being, you know, so a lot of combination of things there to kind of sour the spirits and start thinking about other plans. Bless me. There is a high pollen warning today. So typically whenever I see those, that means I'm going to sneeze about 3 to 5 times that day. And they'll be very, like, at least for me, like powerful feeling sneezes. Like, by and large, on any given day, I wouldn't say I usually sneeze, not unless something obvious happens, like pepper in your nose or like, some sort of irritant, smoke, maybe, something like that, water, who knows. But yeah, when the trees are making all their dust, that's, I definitely have a little visit from the Sneezy Fairy. And I guess technically speaking too, my skin can be a little agitated by that as well, especially when mixed with like sweat. It can be a very unpleasant concoction. But I have transitioned to my complete sun outfit, which includes leggings and, my sun shirt. I feel quite comfortable, in this little nook of trees. Obviously it's kind of loud, but that's only true if you don't have your headphones in and you're not making a podcast. Otherwise it's just like, well, I can't even hear the traffic over my own stuff, so it might as well not be there. And I've got plenty of room to navigate safely in the meantime. People really underestimate the level of pedestrian friendliness that major highways provide for those who are biking or walking. When people warn me about roads, like, I really can no longer take their not remonstration, but their warning. I can't really take it seriously because the way that I operate on highways and stuff is so drastically different than the way that these people operate on highways when they're in their cars, Like, the stakes are way higher in a car. It can feel a lot more dangerous because you're going so much faster, But, in terms of just like numbers, I feel pretty confident, especially actually, ironically, because of the speed. Like, the chances that something would happen that would involve me on like a highway or an interstate are very, very unlikely. Just like, if you think about all the potential vectors that could occur, that could result with me like being hit by a car or something, it would just be an utter perfect storm. And that would have nothing to do with like whether I should or shouldn't have been on the interstate. It has like everything to do with just numbers. Eventually it's possible that all of those things could come together in a bad way. But, knock on wood, I have spent so much time out here and I've never even witnessed like a near miss, And by that I just mean like there's never even been a thing that was like, ooh, that was close. Like, I'm sure there's been things that kind of made me frustrated in the moment. People not driving very courteously or whatever. But by and large, I've never had like a very truly scary thing happen, which is great. And I think that it's all the more true on interstates and highways. So anyway, I'm on the 441 going north, passing a Dollar General right now, which would mean so much more to me if it was a couple weeks ago. I'd be like, ooh, resupply. Do a little tiny resupply. Get some hiker wine. I don't have to do that anymore. Good day, sir. And what else? I was just shocked how long it took to get out of Toccoa. And then I knew that there was a Circle K at like the top of the climb, so to speak, getting back to 985. And so I went in there and I bought a new water bottle. Nothing fancy, but I was like, I don't think I need my Sawyer anymore. And it's not like using the Sawyer makes it easier to drink water if you're in civilization. Better for me to just have like a normal bottle. So I've temporarily retired my Sawyer, And I got a coffee, like, I guess it's kind of like a chilled latte that Starbucks makes at the gas station, you know. That was what I had decided would be a good thing. At a certain point, I was like, maybe I should have some electrolytes. But then I was like, nah, I don't think I need to be worrying about that too much. You know, like, I ate a good breakfast, good baseline. I've got a bunch of, like, nutrition bars that have some portion of electrolytes within them. I was like, I think I need quick sugar, caffeine, and I guess fat for good measure. So I just downed that. And yeah, I'm gonna try to keep my engine running pretty, like, high all day. Not even really my engine, I guess my tank. I don't want to, you know, when you're on trail, like, you get locked into a certain type of desirable efficiency. You know, you don't want to stop, like, well, I don't know, maybe using my I statements, like, I get locked into a certain kind of efficiency, and I don't want to stop to do things because, like, I'd rather keep moving and just do those things later. But that usually means that, like, you know, I get extra hungry and extra thirsty, and I just plan on straightening that debt at a later point, you know, like I said, like my 1 hour lunch, you know, do a big massive refill. But today I think I'll do multiple refills, if you know what I'm saying. I feel like I might need to might need to pee here. There's a lot of good spots on this road to do that, which is also nice. You know, there were quite a few road walks in Virginia that, even though they were like farmland, there was just houses everywhere, which is kind of annoying when you're drinking water all day. You know, like, I don't know, maybe it's not even really annoying. It's just like, well, I hope these people don't care, because, like, you know, I gotta do what I gotta do. Hold on. All right, that's much better. Okay, so I'll try to get to my list notes now. I don't really remember what the impetus for me starting this was. I guess, I don't know, I feel less inspired than when I first started, but maybe it's just like the noise of the road. But let's see. Oh, yeah, this is cool. So I'm actually very happy about this part of my journey. Like, I think, like, this is just a good strategy to keep in mind in general, if and when I ever, you know, get a hankering to do, like, a big part of the Appalachian Trail again. Like, I think at this point in my life, at least for the foreseeable future, like, I'm very content just to do sections of the AT rather than setting out with intentions every single time of, like, all or nothing, which I would say probably was my general default prior to this attempt. But the cool thing about the whole ending of the trail for me is that I left things off, like, right at the beginning of the Shenandoahs and right at the beginning of Skyline Drive. So if and when I ever get that hankering again, you know, I'm just going to start from there. Like, you know, it's funny, talked about it a million times with all these, like, purism ideals and stuff like that. But, you know, people who have really made trail culture a part of their identity, they might look at, like, you know, well, there's just, like, there's rules about how to section hike, you know, like, if you were to call a section hike a through hike, well, no, I guess the rule is, like, if you were to, like, let's say I stopped for 3 months, like, if I wanted to consider this a through hike and not just part of a section hike, I would have to finish it within a calendar year. And I'm just like, why? What is that about? You know, like, I don't even know where I heard that or what authority it was told under. But I guess I'm getting defensive, so in any case, yeah, like, I think starting from Shenandoah, that's like such a nice way to start the trail, you know. And I've certainly done the southern portion most completely and most often, you know, now, well, not entirely on the red line, but, you know, I have a lot of familiarity with the difficulty and the requirements to do all of the 850 miles that came before Waynesboro and Shenandoah and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, I'm happy to not do that again for quite a while, you know. I mean, I say that, but I don't know. I don't have to, again, it doesn't have to be kind of a through hike or bust kind of thing, you know. Like 40 days out there was like a good expenditure of time, you know. Felt kind of like a retreat a little bit. I don't really know what the bike ride felt like overall. Like that just kind of felt like I don't know, like I don't know, a party for one, basically. Like, you know, I certainly met people, but I didn't meet people who were doing what I was doing in a way that we could, like, you know, form some kind of meaningful bonds through shared struggle. But yeah, the AT felt more like that, more like a conference or a retreat, something like holistic, but also very difficult. So yeah, I think that's great. Start from the shinnies next time. Okay. Yeah, so, you know, I think another thing that led to my last exit of San Francisco was that I didn't give myself so loud. I didn't give myself discrete breaks, you know. Every single day was kind of like the same kind of grind. I guess some of that's probably out of necessity, just because, like, I didn't have a place that I could safely or easily loiter at, you know. Like, as soon as I'm in my car, you know, the worst possible situation would be that it would get towed. The second worst possible situation would be that I would get ticketed for, you know, being on some property after hours or something like that. And then beyond that, it gets better and better. It's just like maybe just a verbal warning, maybe nothing ever happens at all. You know, I do remember in this section of the Marin Headlands, there was a decent amount of signage warning people coming into the area to not leave valuables in their cars, which was strange to me just because I didn't see any suspicious activity, you know, and I was there after dark, like every single day for 2 weeks, you know, and maybe, I guess, it wasn't necessarily after dark when people would be stealing stuff from people's cars, but I never saw suspicious looking people going around the area, and I never saw any broken windows on any of the cars that would park in the lot. But in any case, I think that I need to structure it, and you know, this can obviously change with experience and stuff, but I need to make sure that I budget uninterrupted off time, like days where I can do whatever I want, basically just a weekend, you know. I think I need to keep that kind of a boundary. It's like, yes, I want to do things as often as possible, but I don't want to burn out too quickly, or put myself in a position where I might burn out, you know. I want to mitigate that, and, you know, I could experiment with a 4-day work week, 4 days on, 3 days off, you know. We'll see. But yeah, give me weekends or give me death. That's what I had written down. Okay. So I was noticing this morning, I haven't really like consciously checked this in a while, but you know, about 10 months ago, I was pretty like actively working out like my upper body, you know, a lot of push-ups, a lot of pull-ups. I had some pretty heavy dumbbells. I had a kettlebell, and I basically injured myself, you know, just doing exercises that weren't ergonomically good for your body, just like little things that I made up that seemed good. And then at a crucial point, I graduated from 20-pound dumbbells to 25-pound dumbbells, and then that's when the injury occurred. It's like I don't know. It just felt like tennis and elbow from what I could tell based on internet searching and stuff. And it feels like it's gone now. Like I knew how to agitate it as a condition. Basically, if I made like a really tight fist and then brought my elbow to a 90-degree angle, like with my forearm, or whatever, I made my arm into a 90-degree angle, like it would hurt in my elbow as I got closer and closer to 90 degrees. And it does seem like, I don't know if it's coincidence or if the AT actually itself did help, but I do not have that sensation of pain at all. And I definitely did still at the beginning of the Appalachian Trail, because I could also agitate it depending on how I used my trekking poles, and it's just interesting. I don't feel that anymore. It'll be nice when my knees and feet get completely back to normal as well. Keep thinking about my dad. I'm sure he's loving all this traffic noise. You can definitely skip this one, although now you're like 21 minutes into something that's certainly not going to get any better. I guess at least it's not like a Sunday or a Friday when the traffic is like non-stop. This, I actually assume, is probably bound to maybe cool off a little bit traffic-wise, and then maybe an hour or so. It's almost noon, so people are out, doing their lunch thing. But yeah, that was the elbow thing was interesting. Okay, so yeah, I was practicing a little bit of reframing because I didn't like the story that I was telling myself about a specific event from last night. Like last night, I probably had like one more beer than I needed to, or maybe just like a beer that was like stronger than I needed. I was chilling, I was having a nice time. It was the end of the day. I felt like it had been successful, and I thought an IPA sounded nice. And, it was. But I did meet another homeless person, and, I bought him a pack of cigarettes and I gave him $20. And there was a part of me earlier in the morning where I was like, man, like I wouldn't probably have gone that far if I hadn't had that one more beer, And so I felt a little bit foolish, like maybe, I was flying by the seat of my pants a little too much. I'm starting to not like this side of the road. Like the shade is diminishing, and for me to get underneath it, I actually have to like be really deep into this grass, which makes me walk slowly, and it's not a very secure surface. It's pretty topsy-turvy. I'd like to cross. It will be hotter. I haven't tried the sun umbrella yet this year. I could try that too. That could be nice. It's not so hot. So at a minimum, it's definitely worth trying. But yeah. So I reframed it. I was like, well, you know what? Yes, I mean, in the sober light of day, I don't think I would make that same choice or that same decision without being in those specific circumstances, But I did have a completely uninterrupted footpath from my parents' house all the way to Waynesboro, I only accepted 2 rides the whole time. One was from my dad, which that was more like a planned visit than like hitchhiking, And then another one was from John Soleil. Shout out to John Soleil. Shout out to my parents. And so that was similarly like John had said when I was in the Franklin, North Carolina area, he would take me to breakfast. And I was like, you got a deal, my dude. You had me at breakfast. And so we hung out one morning back early on, probably like day, I don't even know, 8 or 9 or something like that. It was good. But, oh yeah. So I said no to a lot of people who very kindly offered me assistance, you know? And it's always funny to me, again, I think I've pretty much beaten this dead horse, but, you know, it's just bizarre to me, like, that people don't understand that, like, the walking is the point. Like, if I were to skip sections and be somewhere faster, all that would really do would be put me in a position where I was going to walk to anyway before I would have otherwise gotten there. And if the whole point's to walk, then it's just like, well, you know, whatever. The point is, I thought, you know, I certainly will always try to help people on trail. I don't think I saw a single instance of where a human being was actually in desperate need of assistance, based on all the people who were directly around me. You know, everyone was pretty self-sufficient. But, you know, when it comes to the homeless community, I think that that's where I like to pay it forward, you know, because, like, yeah, I mean, if you give some guy you're hiking with, like, an electrolyte packet, you know, when he's been sweating a lot all day, it certainly might boost his mood and make him feel like 10 or 15% better than he did. But it's not like he's in, like, actual mortal peril. So, you know, the homeless community, I always just look at them and I'm just kind of amazed in the same way that I was amazed with watching E.T. do the cube challenge. I'm just like, wow, I can't believe this is your reality. And, you know, again, I've mentioned it ad infinitum, but it's just like a very strict application of the thank God tax. Just, you know, thank God I'm not you, you know. It's amazing. Like, I don't know if I'd have the fortitude. I'm sure I'd find it within me somewhere. But at first glance, if you dropped me into the middle of a city and I was, like, literally destitute, had nothing, like, that would be very, very difficult for me to emotionally regulate initially. I'm sure I would adapt. You know, I already thought, well, I could go to a church probably. I'm a decent enough person to where I can get food and water and probably even shelter. So, you know, maybe it's not even possible for me to mimic the depravity that they have to endure, you know. So when our paths cross and they have a relatively simple request, especially if it mirrors something that I want to do also, you know, have some wine, have a beer, have an IPA, it's just like, well, yeah, I understand that. It's interesting, Notebook LM, listening to me talk about the way that I interact with the homeless community in this specific way, and talking about, like, you know, sociology is all about, like, harm reduction and like whether or not my tactics are actually, like, I don't know. I don't feel like, I don't approach it as a moral thing. I approach it as a practical thing and, like, a pragmatic thing. It's like, here's a human being that doesn't have something. They're articulating what they want, and they're asking if another person will give it to them, you know? That's as simple as it is. There's really no morality involved, you know? For me, it's like, well, if I'm not otherwise engrossed in a task that doesn't allow me to have this interaction with this person, it's like, well, most of the time I probably can help you, at least a little bit. You know, don't take advantage of me, but, you know, within reason, I always think that it's a good idea to indulge that voice that says to help someone else, you know, especially if it's like someone that you'd otherwise have no business ever meaningfully interacting with. Like, you can make their day. You probably do, you know? It's just like, wow, one less thing to have to worry about, you know? And again, just kind of piecemealing out Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know? I mean, it's certainly not the most sustainable thing in the world. I wonder if old 441 would be nicer. I feel like it probably would be. Maybe even a little shaded. I initially avoided old 441 because I was like, I'd just gotten finally to the large 441 shoulder, and I was looking forward to that. But it's had some diminishing returns. You know, obviously it's very loud, and the shade's pretty much gone at this point. The sun's too high in the sky, so either I have to, well, there's no either. I've already chosen. I'm walking towards old 441 now, which just dumps me back out onto 441, but that's fine. I guess when USBR 85 really was a thing, this is the road that it was actually on. Maybe. I would assume so. Who knows, actually. I don't really know. Anyway, when it comes to reframing that interaction with that person, I feel a lot better about thinking that, you know, I told a lot of people who offered me things that I would pay it forward, and last night I really did pay it forward. You know, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but, you know, I responded to people who were vocally in need and making requests, you know, which these people were responding to me. I wasn't making any requests. In fact, I was declining. But in any case, yeah, I feel good about that. I feel like it still acknowledges the kernel of truth of both feelings, both the slight foolishness, but then also an explanation as to why I did act in a way that can lovingly be called foolish. You know, it was a celebration, you know. Last night in town, I was like, dude, you know, I'm about to be off trail. I'm about to not be having to spend like $30 to $60 a day on food. Like, you know, this is it's just like having a party. It costs a little bit of money to have a good party, you know. So anyway, that's all my list notes. This is nicer, old 441. I'm digging it. It'll be nice to kind of go back and forth. I don't know, how many miles in am I? It's a dangerous thing to check. 13 and a half. So I almost only have 20 miles left, which is hilarious. That's a full day, my dude. 20 miles. But, you know, it's reasonable. And it'll be nice, you know. I definitely look forward to the sun going down. I don't know. I'm hoping I'll be home before it really... Well, I mean, I definitely will be. I think I'll probably be home before 6. And that's including... That's if I have a nice longer break than I'm anticipating. But there is like a cafe that I've never been to in Tallulah Falls area. And it seems like it could be a good spot for a nice hour break if I can get to the halfway point or farther for the day. I would like that, you know. Let's see what my mile splits are. We'll get an idea of how quickly we're actually moving here. Yeah, it looks like it's where I would expect, so in the 16s. So if I have 20 miles left and I'm doing 16-minute miles, 320 minutes divided by 60. Oof. 5 1/3. Oof. Yeah, and that's moving time too. That doesn't take into consideration breaks. So yeah, as of right now, I guess it would be about 5:20 that I would get in, but 6:20 is fine if I want to take a break. I'll need to take a break regardless, but now I'm just spiraling with logistics, so I'll leave it there for now and get back to you later. Maybe. If not, I'll get back to you soon enough. Do some kind of a post-mortem and a what would be the opposite of post-mortem? Pre-vivification? Pre-vivification, post-mortem. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So, shout out to my parents. Love you. Bye.